and we'll let you know when we're open to answering them. So feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with y'all. I will share my screen. Let's see. All right. All right, y'all can see my my screen? Okay, good. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm really excited. This is some research we're doing in the communication department. And my research tends to revolve around so things like how we use social media and how that affects how we communicate. And this specific research looks at how people, so parasocial interaction is something that has been studied for decades. And actually, so Dr. Auter's research, stretching back into the 90s, has centered around this, but it used to center around television relationships, so relationships with fictional characters or relationships with like news media, news anchors, that type of thing. And if you think about it, really, you feel like you know someone like Harry Potter or Kim Kardashian or, you know, any other celebrity or football player or insert whoever, or, you know, star academic. I know, right? But so these one-sided relationships, you don't actually know Kim Kardashian, you don't actually know your favorite YouTuber or TikTok star. That's, you know, for future research. So it's this ongoing relationship that occurs during and after exposure to someone in the media. And so while there is all of this research to support this phenomenon through television, there isn't a ton on the same relationship and whether or not it occurs in something like YouTube. All right, so just a little bit of background on parasocial research. It began primarily with television and media studies, like I said, and Hartman and Goldhuhn observed that when a YouTuber addressed the audience verbally, so kind of facing the camera like, hey, I'm talking to you, right? So you're breaking that fourth wall, which is really cool. The audience member reported feeling more connected to the persona, and consequently, their parasocial relationship was also stronger, which is really neat, because that's not something that you see too much in television. Of course, we had the classic in the late 90s, early 2000s. What is the reality show where they all live in a house, one house? So those of you who are old enough to remember know what I'm talking about. But so they
Big Brother?
Big Brother is one of them, not Road Rules, but the other one where they all lived together. I just can't.
Real World?
Real World, that's what it is. Yeah, so Real World. And they would start looking directly into the camera and talking. And so that, breaking that fourth wall, I think really, though that late 90s, early 2000s was the beginning of what we see in reality TV and also individual YouTube, TikTok type relationships. And so let's see. Yeah, so there has been research looking into comparing parasocial relationships to interpersonal relationships. So how do these differ, right, from relationships that we have with, you know, real life people that can give back, that can give us feedback individually. And so there also has been some looking into social media and YouTube, but not the specific. There was a little gap in the literature here. So we also wanted to look at self-efficacy. And so as psychology students, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept. Self-efficacy, you know, basically looks at how other people influence us to feel like we can do a thing. And so looking at, this is what led us to look at lifestyle YouTubers. So cooking something, how to, you know, improve your health with yoga, or how to better improve another lifestyle skill. So lifestyle here, as we used it in this study, is a rather broad concept. That's something in future research we want to narrow down. But essentially, the more relatable, the research has shown us that the more relatable an individual believes their role model to be, the more that role model affects the level of self-efficacy of that individual to accomplish the given task that they're setting out to do. So if you relate to, you know, Kylie Jenner, Maybe you feel like you can get your makeup skill better. I'm not sure. I think that's what Kylie Jenner does. She does a lot. I'm a millennial, so not all up to date on the Gen Z stuff. But yeah, essentially, if your role model can do it, you feel more like you can do it. Therefore, this parasocial relationship with a relatable role model, we hypothesize, can affect the self-efficacy of an audience member. Now, does this carry over into YouTube? That's the question. So here's what our research questions and hypotheses. We essentially looked at, the general variables of gender, repeated watching. So did you rewatch the YouTube video for instructions or things like that? How many hours total-ish did you watch the given YouTuber and their videos, and parasocial relationships with YouTubers, and seeing if they could predict an individual's level of self-efficacy on that exact topic. We looked at whether parasocial relationships with YouTubers were positively correlated with self-efficacy, so we looked in gender as a construct. So we hypothesized that females would have a stronger parasocial relationship with their chosen YouTubers than males would. That females would have a higher level of self-efficacy than males with their chosen YouTubers. And there was some support in the literature for this. And individuals who report that they rewatch YouTube videos, there was a lot of support for rewatching, from their chosen YouTuber would report higher levels of self-efficacy. And I can't wait to tell you those findings because it's surprising. And then we looked at whether self-efficacy was positively correlated with the reported cumulative weekly viewing time of the respondent's chosen YouTuber. Because you would think, okay, the more you rewatch this, the more your self-efficacy might be bolstered, right? All right. So how did we do this? We did a survey. It's a nice, easy way to get a feel for a phenomenon. So we did a survey of adults 18 and up who watched at least one lifestyle YouTuber. So we did ask them, like, hey, please name your YouTuber, put a link if you can, to make sure that they were in the right category. And our total, after throwing out a few that didn't finish the survey, all the regular reasons that you would discard a survey response, 424 respondents via MTurk. And so the scales that we used in our questionnaire we used Auter and Palmgreen's Audience Persona Interaction Scale. So the API scale is a 5-point Likert scale. We asked things like, agree, strongly disagree, or to strongly agree. I have the same qualities as my chosen YouTuber. So measuring how much do they identify with the person that they may or may not have a parasocial interaction with. So this was important to the study really because of the connections in the literature regarding parasocial relationships and self-efficacy, as well as the role model response that linked to self-efficacy that we were investigating. So the questions here were adapted from the original scale to parasocial relationships, because the original scale looked at television. And lucky for us, we had the first author of the Audience Persona Interaction Scale as the fourth author on this study. That was Dr. Auter. He's fantastic to work with. All right, so then we also used Schwarzer and Jerusalem's 4-point Likert scale, looking at self-efficacy. Of course, there's many to choose from here, but this is the one that we found fit this study best. So this scale looked at asked respondents to rate statements such as, I can always manage to solve difficult problems regarding my lifestyle if I try hard enough. Strongly disagree to strongly, or agree to disagree. And so then we asked them, on average, how much time do you spend, and asked them to put in a number of hours weekly, whether or not they rewatched their videos, and then of course, demographic videos. All right, so what did we find? Well, here's just the, general demographics that we found. We had a decent balance of male to female, which is important, especially because we were, looking at gender as a construct. And I found that more recently, it's harder to get a good gender balance. A lot of females take surveys. I love taking surveys. So, hey, that's another phenomenon that warrants investigation. I am notorious, by the way, about encouraging students to look into future research. I'm very passionate about it. If you ever need ideas, please contact me, come to my office, Zoom me. I will chat with you about research. My cognate in my PhD program was social psychology. And I tell you, those social psychology classes I took are some of the hardest I ever took in my life, but I love it. It's fantastic. All right. I also digress often. So age, decent balance of age. I mean, of course, lending towards younger, but it's a study on YouTube, so that makes sense. It's kind of what we were expecting. And ethnicity, well, largely Caucasian, not the greatest, but it is what it is. All right. So here's a little table explaining our results for our research questions, multiple regression. So we have here, we found that parasocial relationships was a significant predictor of self-efficacy. So P is less than 0.001, which is what you want, right? So that was exciting. We're going to talk about what that means in a second. But cumulative viewing hours was only marginally significant predictor. So that deviated from prior research, and we're going to talk about that too. So gender and rewatching, shockingly, failed to predict self-efficacy. So it was not significant. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. Okay, so results of hypotheses 1, 2A, and 2B. So H1, we were looking for a linear association between the strength of parasocial relationship and the level of self-efficacy of a respondent. So we did a standard basic Pearson correlation, and it demonstrated that there was a significant positive correlation between self-efficacy and parasocial relationships. Hey, that's exciting. But the other two, so H2A and H2B, there was no correlation found between gender. So there are many reasons this could have happened. It could have just been the sample, or maybe there just isn't. Maybe we're becoming more balanced as a society and gender expectations and norms. Ah, that would be awesome, right? Future research. All right, so H3. Examined levels of self-efficacy in those who rewatch YouTube videos made by their chosen YouTuber versus those who do not rewatch YouTube videos from their chosen YouTuber. And this was not supported. So that's also interesting because it differed from the other research, previous research. So H4 looked for a linear relationship between self-efficacy viewing time and also was not supported. So rewatching and amount of viewing didn't correlate. All right, let's talk about why. So we theorize that parasocial relationships with YouTubers may be taking place in the minds of the individuals. This is something a researcher, Honeycutt, he works over at LSU, go Tigers. He calls this imagined interactions. So it's really, that's why we theorize it might not be about rewatching. It might not be about how much time do you spend. Rather, it's what you take from that person and carry on throughout your day. Think about it. Have you ever think of you as someone, you fictional or non-fictional? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody who you've never met in real life, politician or a professor, or, I mean, of course you've met your professor, but a celebrity, etc. So we think that there's a more complex thing going on here. And that's why we might not have gotten those that support for H3 and H4. Because gender was a significant factor in other previous studies on PSRs and media, both social media, television, etc. So this really opens the opportunity for new theoretical development about the function and motivation of parasocial relationships. It's incredibly exciting to me. Same goes for exposure, amount of time, and rewatching. All right. And of course, MTurk is its own thing. If you're not familiar with MTurk, it's Amazon's Mechanical Turk, and there's pros and there's cons. I wane and wax with my support and dislike of it. All right. So limitations in future research. So I've mentioned a few future research opportunities already. I can't help myself. I get very excited about opportunities for future research. But future studies could add additional options for respondents to indicate what they rewatch, when they rewatch. So there might be some nuance there to pull out. As well as how much they rewatch, because we actually asked it just as a yes/no question, like, do you rewatch videos ever? I mean, personally, I almost never rewatch videos. I'll rewind it and rewatch a part, but I'll never say, I would like to watch this one video again. No, not on YouTube. that was a limitation. And then focus was broad in like lifestyle category, but man, you can really break down that category into like a lot of different parts. You could have it be, again, like health benefit. So yoga or meditation, or nutrition, healthy eating, or cooking, or their makeup, beautification, self-presentation. There's a lot of nuance that could be explored in the future. And so we might, our results may have been skewed a little bit because of the broad focus on lifestyle. We could definitely have a more generalizable sample while we had a good gender breakdown. Again, we didn't have a good ethnicity kind of generalization. So maybe it says a lot more about Caucasian respondents in general, but not a lot about other ethnicities, or maybe there's no difference there, who knows, to be determined. And we could have more specific focus on the categories of lifestyle, like I said, and other types of YouTubers. And of course, imagined interactions, which is exciting in and of itself. All right. And that is it. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to answering any questions you might have.
So thank you so much. If anybody has a question, feel free to raise your hand and speak up, or put your question in the chat, and we can relay it to Dr. Auverset. Go ahead, Taylor.
I was just curious about, like, I know for future research, you said probably trying to make the sample more generalizable. Like, what would be some like suggestions you would have as someone who has done this type of research? How would you, like, what would you have done to make it more generalizable and get like other races and ethnicities to participate?
So that is like the big current challenge of survey research. We could have had it be open for longer. We could have used Mechanical Turk, and then when we weren't getting those results, tried a different avenue of collecting, or it comes down to money really to get a good generalizable sample, and we just didn't invest a ton of money because in this specific sample. So we're probably going to replicate it and do it again, and reach out more to more diverse sample pools.
Paris asked if we could go back to the slides one more time.
Absolutely. Let's see.
And Paris, did you have a specific question?
Yeah, was there a specific one that you wanted me to go back to? Let's see. Oh, I see. How much did the study cost for interns? It was 50 cents per respondent. And I think the total amount of respondents was 600 something. So we threw out a fair bit for different reasons. But yeah. Oh, the results. Okay, let me go back to results. Okay, so just tell me which one you want me to skip to, and I will skip down. Oh, yes, Dr. Perkins. I see your hand raised. Oh, you're muted.
Dr. Brown, was your hand up a little bit before mine?
I think it was. Thank you. My question was actually just, did you collect data about the types of lifestyle videos that people were following?
Yes, we had them just type that in. And so we have that, but we haven't combed through those specific things yet to categorize them, because it was a lot. It was a lot of very different things.
Okay.
But we did go through all of them to make sure, like, okay, is this a lifestyle video? So that's part of why we had to throw out some other ones, because we're like, no, this doesn't fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My question's a very general one, but you obviously have experience with psychology. You were sort of citing that social psychology classes were very challenging, difficult. So if you look at this topic, I was wondering, since you're sort of familiar with these different disciplines, would you imagine any differences in how a psychologist would approach these topics? It's probably no one answer to that, right? No, psychologists are not uniform either. But Any thoughts about like if you put on different caps, how different perspectives might approach the same subject matter?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously we're focused on the communication kind of aspect, but if you look at it from a psychological aspect, you might look at maybe motivations, I think, to like why are people gravitating, what part of their inner self helps them gravitate towards watching a lifestyle YouTube video, persona. What is it in here and in here that helps you decide, this is how I want to spend my time, this is what motivates me, this is who I connect to, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Did you want to see, I think, Paris, did you want to see the other results screen? I'll just click forward to it for a second anyway.
And Paris, and this will be something that will be for everybody else as well. It's a little reminder that this talk is being recorded, and Whitney Story is helping to take the recordings that I provide to her, and she's creating a YouTube playlist that will eventually make available to everybody with the various talks on it. So anything that you miss, you can always also consult the recording once it's available. So
that's wonderful. Excellent. Because there's a few on the list. I was like, oh, I wish I could go to that, but so wonderful.
There's never enough time for everything.
That's a good thing, though. That's exciting. There's too much to talk about, too much excitement.
I have a question too. I was kind of interested in what you were talking about with imagined interactions. I wanted to know if you could, would you be able to talk about that a little? And I know you said you wanted to replicate the study, so how would you like implement that into your next study?
That's a great question. So there's a scale to measure imagined interactions, which we did not include in this questionnaire, but I would add to the next one. So to kind of measure that construct and is it happening or not. So right now, from these results, we just theorize that is probably what's going on. But imagined interactions in general, like Dr. Madison, who's another co-author on this, and I have another set of research on what we call hate watching, which is fascinating. Why do people watch things that they hate? Why? And Dr. Madison's research here focuses, and he studied with Honeycutt during his doctoral program. And he focuses on, and I'm closing my eyes because it pains my brain to think about Alex Jones. But Alex Jones, people apparently hate watch Alex Jones. People hate watch, what we found in the study, that other study on imagined interactions and hate watching, is athletes tend to hate watch videos and things from rival teams. Is that not fascinating? So it's about, and it was a qualitative, so interview study that we did there. And what we kind of theorized there is like, see, you have a relationship with this person, but you don't actually know them, but you know who they are. You've met them on the field. But then you imagine, based on what you see in their social media, based on videos that their publicity teams put out, imagine yourself talking to them, telling them, hey, I'm better than you, or hey, we're on the same team, even though we're rivals, whatever it is that they were thinking. And so it's those conversations we have in our head that they feel real to us. Like your emotions can get riled up from that. And the cool thing about imagined interactions is it can happen with people that you know, so it can happen in interpersonal relationships, and it also can happen in parasocial relationships. So there's just so much to investigate there.
Thank you. I just thought that was so cool, and just seeing this concept with YouTubers and just possibly thinking of how that can be applied to like other people, because like influencers are something that I'm just like a little fascinated by, and the fact that somebody could have just like such a close like parasocial relationship with them. So just seeing how this could be applied to other areas is like really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So influencers and like purchase intention and motivations there. That's a big area. But that's more advertising. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the wonderful and extremely interesting presentation. I look forward to seeing the other research or your next steps, because I'm really interested in it now too. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you all so much for inviting us here, and I appreciate it. Thank you.